Tonight's meeting, we have a special meeting this evening, and I would like to call the meeting to order. Also welcome our visitors, and can I get a roll call?
Mayor Bennett,
Here.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Here.
Councilor Randolph,
Here.
Councilor Holloway,
Here.
Councilor Gore,
Here.
Councilor Denton. I don't see her. And
Councilor Denton will not be here this evening. She's been excused. Thank you.
and Councilor Pelham.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion to amend or adopt the special meeting agenda?
Madam Mayor, staff is going to pull R1 from the agenda this evening.
Okay. Is there a motion to amend the agenda by removing R1?
Do we do that or did they just do it?
There needs to be a motion. Are you going to make the motion?
So move.
Second.
The motion's been made by Councilor Pelham, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton. Discussion. I do not see any hands. Roll call.
Ms. Holloway,
Yes.
Ms. Gore,
I do have a point of information.
Oh, okay. I see your hand.
Sorry, I was trying to put it up. Staff requesting to pull this from the meeting tonight. Can we add a closed session after this other item is done to figure out why and to talk about the items that we were discussing via email regarding the deal?
so I can tell you why. Not without going into closed.
What? You said you need to go into close to tell us why?
No, I said I can say that I can tell y'all if y'all want me to tell you without going into close.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we had some conversations with the developer with regard to some of the email traffic back and forth today, and the decision was made to pull it. And we expect the developer to come forward with a new proposal within the next week that will bring forth to council for consideration.
An entire new development agreement? Okay.
I don't think it's going to be an entire new development agreement. That's been approved. Just pulling the discussion that we've been having here, the topic at this point, which was the incentive agreement and the donation agreement, pulling those and retooling that and bringing something back.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
My answer is no.
Okay, so where was I? Ms. Holloway, Ms. Gore, Ms. Pelham. You're muted, Ms. Pelham. And this is voting for the motion to amend the agenda.
I thought I already voted.
Well, not yet. I didn't hear you, Miss. We had a point of information from Ms. Gore.
I said yes. I made the motion, so.
Yes, you did. Mayor Bennett,
Bentley.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Randolph.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-1.
Madam Chair, just for the record, I want to have in the minutes that I voted no because I would like to see us have a closed session so we can figure out clarification regarding the email traffic and what is being expected with this new proposal being brought to us. I just feel like we're just still leaving a lot of stuff in the air. That's a, you put that in the record, please.
Yes, yes, Counselor Gore. Thank you. Okay, the motion carries and I guess I will turn this over to you, Mr. Altman, for the Creator Regional Workforce Development Board. Or would that be
I thought this would be Ms. Gore.
Yes, sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Altman, for allowing this to be added to this agenda at the last minute. Council was already briefed in closed session regarding a disallowed cost for the Creator Region Workforce Board. Council had approved an expenditure for, I think, $3,150. After looking at different agreements with the body, the decision has been made to divide up the disallowed cost based off of the appropriation each locality received back in 1999, back into FY 16, 17, and that is based off of the 1990 agreement. So just for clarity, the disallowed costs occurred in fiscal year 16 and 17. The agreement that was in place at the time was from 1999. According to that agreement, if there is a disallowed cost, it has to be divided based off of your local workforce funds. And so that decision was made last week, and Hopewell's portion of that has now increased to $4,462. Again, council voted for a different number. I did talk briefly to city manager about this. We think that the same situation applies in terms of having the contingency funds to cover this expenditure, but I did not want to ask for a check to be cut that was different than what was voted on. So that is the update, to ask for there to be an amended amount to pay our portion of these fees. And then the update to provide is we have voted for some administrative actions to be taken within the office. I will forward you the letter that was sent out to all the localities yesterday, recapping those steps and everyone else's portion that they have to pay. And again, this is divided based off of the money that Hopewell received during that time period. And that agreement was based off a 1999 agreement. Just for questions in advance, yes, the agreement has been updated. This council actually voted on it last year. So we no longer go by a 1999 agreement, but at the time of this transaction, that was the agreement that was in place.
Can Ms. Gore, just to clarify, you said $4,462?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I see Councilor Randolph has her hand raised.
Does the mayor have to ask me to speak or you?
Oh, you go ahead, Counselor Randolph.
Okay. First question is, what's the difference between what we approved and what this amount is?
So when I came to you guys the last time to ask for permission, the amount was divided equally across.
No, I understand that. I'm asking for the actual monetary difference between the two.
We could do quick math. The last number again was 3,150. This amount is 4,462. So I can do quick math.
Okay, and so the last time that we were asked, why didn't we know this the last time, that it was going to have to be based on who actually looked into how much each locality was paying that we agreed on and didn't look at the agreement? Do we know how that was, why that was done the way it was?
Yes. It's not a matter of not looking into the agreement. what was presented by staff was to do an equitable distribution of the disallowed costs. And that was the support up until other jurisdictions started to question about why, and going into attendance reports and things that nature, which caused us to pull out the 1999 agreement, basically just answering different questions. And the localities have the choice to either divide it up equally or through appropriation like this. And there's other factors that come into play, meaning if this, you have this option and this option isn't met, then you have this option isn't met, then you have this option. So basically going through that conditional formatting in terms of what options were available. At the end of that, this was the final determination. And again, this is due to trying to answer new questions, having to address concerns from different localities that were raised, having to do additional research in terms of which locality actually received the funds. And again, this has been a multi-month conversation. So at the time, it was the impression was that it will be divided equally. But again, at the later stages, some disagreed with that. And then we had to
Did you
resort.
get outvoted? Is that what it ends up being?
So what-
Was the vote taken by all the representatives from the localities, and those that could pay less based on this new option voted to go with the distribution as such, or was it just not an option at all? It had to be done this way.
It has to be done this way.
Okay. And then,
Because the option to not, in case I'm not being clear, we have the option to do it equally, but the decision by several localities was not to do it that way. And so
that's what I was asking, if they took a vote and we got outvoted, in other words.
yes, basically.
Okay. So that,
But we didn't vote, but that's why I don't want to put on record saying we voted, did not vote. This is just do discussions. And so this is the final determination. Every locality has been given, well, first of all the CLEOs were given notice of this at some time. It was just followed up in writing to all the administrators, managers, along with the CLEOs this week to ensure that everyone understands that based off of everyone's conversations, this is the final determination.
okay. And there will be something in writing given to, if not already given to the localities to explain how, I mean, we don't have much say so in what goes on with who's hired and not. And prior to you being on there, I don't know what kind of oversight they had. So is there going to be something written up about the oversight and how the staff, follow up in all of this? Because I know you'd given us several options of what might happen with staff that, had been there and things. Are we going to get a future write-up on that and how it's been handled as a city?
So when I presented, I shared that there was a letter given to all the managers and administrators and the CLEOs regarding this transaction. So in the transaction, at the end of it, I do provide a snapshot of what steps have been taken and which steps are planned to address the fallout from this. So that's an immediate answer that has already been supplied to each locality. And I will forward that to council if that's what you would like, and I can do that right now.
I've seen that. I was just asking if there was going to be future follow-up, because the planned stuff, we don't know if that's going to happen or not. I was just wondering if there was going to be another follow-up with localities to say, in fact, yes, this is what we've done 6 months to a year from now to, resolve everything as a second follow-up.
Yes, the answer is yes, but I anticipate that probably happening sooner than later if we don't have everyone pay their part.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I do not see any hands. Is there?
I like to make a motion that City Council approve payment for the Cherry Creek disallowed costs with the Crater Region Workforce Board in the amount of $4,462 to reimburse the states.
Second.
Oh, motion's been made by Counselor Gore, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton. So for discussion, Counselor Randolph, you still have your,
Yes,
okay,
it's down. Thank you.
thank you. I don't see any hands. Roll call, please.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Counselor Bennett, Vice Mayor Bennett, Mayor Bennett, sorry,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Okay,
Now we're gonna move to the work session. Mr. Altman.
can you let me share my screen?
Yes. Let me stop share.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Let me take some notes real quick. So tonight will just be a quick introduction of where we are with the budget, mainly revenue. We'll have your budget books for you in your boxes with all your wonderful Munis line items on Friday. Should have revenues and expenditures for you all at one time. And if we need, we can email them to you. So as always, today is just to go through where we are kind of in a highlighted overview of the budget and primarily revenues. We'll have additional work sessions to discuss expenditures and the CIP. As in the past, this is kind of our framework that we have. We're not overly aggressive on our budgeting, but we're not being passive and not addressing budgetary issues and needs that exceed the 2021 levels. And this year, we certainly had, as we went through last year's budget, and councils where every year we're dealing with escalation in contract costs for services or licenses that we have for software. So as always, we're dealing with those and just increases in general costs as well because of the price of gas has gone up and different things of that nature. But we really do take a fiscally responsible approach to make sure that we're providing enough funding to deliver the services to the city, but not overly budgeting. We go through this 4-pillar approach every year. We do an assessment. Is the budget sound? We do our analysis based on prior budget practices and trends. We look at a 3-year analysis of expenditures. We typically try to budget at that average level, but we make the departments justify their needs for any additional funds that may be requested each year in a explanation worksheet that they have to fill out. We're looking at preservation of services, so our revenues meeting our costs, and then we look at a status. How are we handling, or will we be able to handle issues that arise during the FY22 year that we're not budgeting for? So where we are right now, the total proposed operational and capital budget is $180,848,289, and that's all the funds. So that's inclusive of the general fund, where we live out of the general fund, but that's all of those funds. So that's inclusive of what schools are getting, our enterprise funds, the dollars that we're getting through social services. That's everything all together is that $180 million. And that represents about an $8 million increase over last year, $8,821,095 increase, or about a 5% increase over FY21. For us, where we live is the general operating fund, Fund 11. That fund is at $54,328,648, which is an increase of about $1,710,971, or 3.25% over last year's budget. We're trying to remain within that baseline budget, but again, we know there's issues that are coming up. We've proposed no tax rate adjustments for FY22, and we don't have any proposal for any taking any money out of the unassigned fund balance to balance the budget, which we want to make sure that we're balancing with reoccurring revenue every year, not one-time funds. So again, the budget proposal has healthcare cost increase absorbed by the city. That this year was about a 2.2% increase. If we're looking at changing a plan option this year, which will save the city some money. If we don't make the change in the plan option, which we'll have for you at the meeting next week, there will be about $100,000 increase in the budget for the healthcare costs. If we make the change, then it'll be around $50,000, if I remember correctly. So we're looking at change in our plans that we offer. We also kind of been given the indication that the plan, so we have a premium plan, we would look to change that. And if we make that move this year, it's going to save us some money, which we anticipate. If we don't, we'll be spending more money next year. We'll have more of an increase next year as we move through looking at our annual renewal. Again, no tax rate increase. Not looking at any new projects other than what we have on the books now. Of course, we've got new capital projects, but we haven't funded anything beyond what was already been in the list. And we have made the one project that we borrowed money from to move forward on the Riverwalk. We've made that whole in this budget. No new debt and no use of fund balance. And our school funding is consistent at the level that we had last year. And why isn't it moving? So these are the rates that we have currently. Real estate is $1.13 per 100 of assessed value. Personal property, $3.50 per 100. M&T, $3.05, and meals tax is 6%. The note at the bottom, if we choose to accept the American Rescue Plan Act money, which we are set to receive a half of it on May 11th, it's about $5.25 million that we would receive over 2 years. The provision is that you cannot reduce your tax rate. So what they don't want you to do, because you can use the funds in part to offset lost revenue, they don't want you to create the loss of revenue by reducing your tax rate. So you can't reduce the tax rate and then you use these funds to plug that hole that you would have. So it can't really supplant anything, but it can be used to address lost revenue. And there's fewer rails around the use of these funds than it was for the CARES Act money. This is the revenue committee that we have. Given COVID, we did a virtual this year again with emails. City manager, assistant city manager, commissioner revenue, treasurer, real estate assessor, finance director, and our budget analyst to develop what we have coming in from our revenue perspective, what we're anticipating in M&T, personal property, real estate, and then also looking at what we know is coming in from the treasurer's perspective, what her collection rate would look like. So this is the budget in all funds. So again, the general fund is at top, social services, our CSA money, what we have in recreation, the marina funds, anti-litter, the economic development, so self-insurance down the line for the upcoming year. And all that totals out to that $180,848,289. These are the differences, percent change between last year's adopted budget and this year's adopted budget. So these are the revenue changes that we see, an increase in real estate of about 488,000. Personal property gone up quite a bit. So that would tell you that while we have a pandemic going on, people are buying cars. And then machinery and tools has gone up some. We have seen some reductions, primarily in some of those federal funds that we receive. But again, it's about $1.7 million increase over the funding that we received last year. So these are some of the definitions of terms. We had this discussion last year in the budget process as to what these were. So these are the terms here in the revenue. So you see use of money. So just concluded this again. So that's there for reference points of what use of money, the charges for services, miscellaneous, local dollars, and transfer dollars are. So our next steps would be, we have a work session on the 14th with the school board to talk about their proposed budget. There's at this point possibly, I know at one point they had 3 budgets based on whether it was the governor's budget that got approved, the Senate version, or the House version of the budget. We'll have a budget work session on the 20th to discuss expenditures. Again, on the 27th to look at capital improvements, and then we'll start through our adoption process. And we have a slot for another budget work session if we need it in May, and then have final adoption on May 25th. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of where we are at this moment. Again, we'll have your budget books ready for you that on Friday. So come down and pick them up. It's going to be some exciting reading for y'all, I'm sure. And we'll be ready to answer questions for you. If you have any questions now, I'll be happy to answer them. But I think we'll be more in depth, particularly what everybody's interested in, which is the expenditure side and the departmental requests on the 20th. Okay, I don't hear anything. So we'll have your books for you. I'll email you when they're ready.
I have my hand up.
Oh, I can't see anything because my presentation's up. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
There's 3 hands. It's Counselor Pelham, Counselor Randolph, and then Vice Mayor Parton, Mr. Altman.
Okay.
Mayor Bennett, this is Molly. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yay.
Yay, thank God, I'm in.
Okay, great.
I had to do a reboot, so I apologize, but I'm in.
Thank you. So right now we are at the end of the budget, the presentation. So now we have comments from, and we're going to go in line. Ms. Pelham, Councilor Randolph, and Vice Mayor Parton.
Okay.
You said there wouldn't be any change for the schools, but however, I know that we may be getting a raise, and that will constitute at least $500,000, I think, dollars.
Yeah.
So are they not requesting that money from us, or?
I haven't seen the number that they're requesting yet. So we've put in the number that we did last year, and we know that there will be funding coming back to us from the FY18 audit that we can reappropriate as we've done in the past to close that gap for them. So I haven't seen the number yet. I've seen the 3 numbers, but I don't know what number they settled on.
What audit you talking about, the CAFR?
Yeah, the 18 CAFR, like we've done in the past, where they have funding left over at the end of the CAFR that they return to the city, and then we reappropriate that back to them for their use.
Oh, and that's legal too?
Yes, ma'am.
As long as they gave it back to us and then we reappropriate it.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
That's the
Okay,
bus.
now all the monies that the stimulus and the federal government been adding to people's monies, that one, there's no potential that as the Dr. Hackney talked to you about them reducing the requirement the city will give them?
No, ma'am, she hasn't.
I mean, so that's a good question to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good question, is what the funding that they may get through the American Recovery Act, what can that be used for on the school side?
To offset, yes, to offset the city property taxes that the citizens pay for their budget.
Correct.
Okay. I had another question, but I forget now.
Okay. Well, if you remember, just give me a call or something.
Thank you.
My turn.
Yes, Councilor Randolph.
The question that I had, March, was that you said no new projects, but we had talked briefly last year about the conversion of the accounting software that the schools are using to get them on Munis so that we can be on the same accounting software and not have the delays and problems that we've had in the past.
Mhm.
Is that not going to be happening during this budget year?
So what my plan was is to bring council a proposal outside of the budget to
Okay.
fund that conversion, but not be a part of the actual fiscal year budget.
Can you provide clarity on what you mean by that?
Yeah.
So as
'Cause I'm
opposed to,
thinking,
as opposed
okay.
to, okay, so I want to bring a plan to council to get all the audits completed this year and implementation elements done, which would be outside of the budget request, but
Uh-huh.
utilizing funding that we have available today to make that happen.
Okay. And so one of those aspects of making that happen is the school conversion.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Also
We'll wait.
dependent upon what the school's request is and how much the funding is from the F-18 audit that would come back, you could make
Right.
that part of that appropriation.
So when do you anticipate that coming to council?
The which
Request
that
outside of the budget.
the thing outside the budget.
Yep.
I'm targeting to have that to you guys in May.
Okay. We'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Parton.
As part of this budget, are you forecasting the revenue that's coming from the American Rescue Plan Act, or is that not included in this budget presented?
That is not included. So what we'll have to do when we so I'm going to make an assumption that council wants to receive this additional $5 million that we can utilize in the community. So with that assumption, we received the first portion on or about May 11th. And at that point in May, we would bring a budget amendment resolution to council for the current year's budget for FY21. And in it, we would amend the current year budget for those dollars and probably have a carryover provision for those dollars in that amendment resolution, because we probably won't be able to spend all $2 million by July, because we'll have a year to spend it. And then the following year around the same time, we'll get the second half of the funds. So we have not included those funds, and because number one, we weren't sure that it was, when and if it would pass. And two, we'll receive the funding in the current year. So it's not part of the proposed FY22 budget.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Counselor Pelham, and then Counselor Gore. Counselor Pelham.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was muted. If we know we're going to accept the money and get the money, most likely, understand some of it or all of it could be used for infrastructure. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
So is no kind of pre-planning we can do?
No, we're gonna absolutely. If you've got thoughts, I mean, I'm assuming there's a desire to pave some streets.
Not just not paving. What Hopewell needs is gutters and ways to move water away from people's properties.
Yeah, so we'll have
trenches and those type things in neighborhoods, anything that we can
drainage
back into our neighborhoods to show that we can uplift them and make them their homes better. It's a lot of running water going into foundations that's breaking them down, and all over Hopewell, but definitely in all our wards. But we can give back some pre-planning for that money. I think it would be ahead of the game.
Yes, ma'am. So part of my thought process has been some infrastructure improvements, much like paving and drainage improvements. Also looking at what we have from some of our rolling stock. We've got very outdated vehicles in a lot of our departments, and some of which could help us with some of those issues that you're talking about. So we would look at that, and we'd also have talked a little bit internally about if another round of business assistance grants. So we'll have that conversation with y'all for sure. We know we're waiting, kind of anticipating getting those funds coming in. And then if y'all have any ideas, please feel to share them. And then when we'll bring all that to council for a discussion. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gore?
Yeah, I just want to follow up on two things. So where you just left off with Counselor Poem. So whenever that discussion is going to be a work session, so we have ample time to talk about it as opposed to us voting to approve something. Is that what the design is going to be?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And then going back to this whole thing about the audit, so we still don't have FY18 audit completed, if that's what I'm tracking. And so you said something about an idea to do that and I guess improve the software. Is that what you're talking about? The things, the modules that I've been talking about with council, saying that we need to update our systems and onboard the other modules that we have purchased but not used right now. Is that what you're talking about?
So there's been a discussion primarily revolved around the audits and the fact that the schools are not on Munis and the need for the schools to get on the same platform as the city, which also allows us to then be able to begin to utilize the auto bank reconciliation piece of the Munis software. So that's primarily what we were talking about, making sure that we have funding in place to be able to get schools on Munis, which if I remember correctly, when we discussed it, it was about a $330,000 expenditure to $330,000 to $350,000 expenditure to get their module up for them. So that would be part of our plan moving forward, because we want that, we want our systems to be able to communicate and do things as seamlessly as possible. And I know through discussions with the superintendent, she and her staff, and I believe the school board, are fully supportive of going to Munis. So that's something that we definitely want to take advantage of.
Okay.
And then yes, to answer the other part of your question, there are pieces that we're still looking that we need to begin to implement, and even beyond implementation, utilize more than we probably currently are in our existing software. But I know Dr. Manker has an update of the overall Munis system that's coming down the line here, which is going to change the way not the way the system works, but how we interact with the system, kind of like when we went from one version of Word to Microsoft Word to a new version, and everybody had culture shock because it didn't look the same and you couldn't find everything immediately. I mean, our interface is going to look differently. So we're going to have to go through that process with our staff this year in the upcoming months and bridge that, I think, really before we start looking at implementing the other pieces, just because I think there's going to be, and Dr. Manker can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure there's going to be some level of culture shock when we go through this conversion to the new platform on Munis.
So, obviously, ideally we want the schools to be on board so we can do all this. But if something stalls that process, we can complete our modules so that we at least are utilizing the system better. So just for clarification, because I have been an advocate of doing this for a very long time, the reason why it couldn't be accomplished before with utilizing the modules that we currently have to improve our finances, is it because we needed to have this entire system upgraded to a certain level? I guess my question is, why can this be done now than not before?
So I'll let Dr. Manker correct me, but I know that we've had to go through several upgrades of Munis to get to the point where we're about to do the upgrade we're undertaking now. And she can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that's probably the reason that we ran into was we weren't operating off the correct the correct version number. So we've had to do quite a bit of that to catch up here lately. And Dr. Manker, jump in and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong.
You're absolutely correct, Mr. Altman. The issue we were having is that we were many versions behind. And so it's taken us a few years here to get to the correct version where we need to be in order to implement additional modules. Okay. And those modules that we continue to implement, they require certain versions. So May the 11th and the 12th of this year, we will be moving to the latest module of Munis, and then we can begin implementing additional modules that will work with other programs in Munis.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Altman, remember when I asked for Dr. Mecker to do that report out about the modules, which ones we had purchased, not using, which ones we have installed, but we weren't making live, I guess you can say people weren't actually using them. Whenever you guys get to that point to start implementing them, can she do a presentation to update us based off of that presentation? Because it was like a chart she had with her and Michael Terry. With the modules, so that way we can follow the progression of where we are now, since the goal was just to bring us up to speed before we could actually make those changes.
Absolutely. Yeah. When we get there, like I said, I think we're going to have some culture shock here in a little while. But when we get beyond that and we start doing the updates and upgrades, absolutely, we can do that.
Okay, and my last question is this idea that you have about, I think you said something about getting all the audits done at one time and then something about the modules. Whatever that discussion is it going to be a work session or something that we're going to be asked to vote on that night?
Probably have some discussions with y'all individually about the plan before we bring it in. And if it looks like there's a need for a work session, we can do that. But I want to try to have some conversations with everybody before I throw it out there. But my and I don't know if my patience level or my frustration level, which is greater, but whatever level it may be, I'm tired of the delays and I'm tired of where we're at, and we need to. What I've asked to be prepared for me to present is a plan to move forward to get all of that wrapped up this calendar year, to identify what type of resources, people-wise, that we may need to make that happen, software-wise, and what those costs are, so we can present that to you, to council, for a decision. We need to get these done, and if that means we need to put more people resources on the job to allow people that are currently balancing the day-to-day activity with trying to get audit work done, to allow the new, this team to just do the audit work, then that's what we need to do, because this has gone on for me far too long, and it needs to come to an end, because we need to be able to get back to normal so we can move forward with making some improvements in the city. So
yeah, so totally support that. And I am going to say, just again for the record, some of us have asked for that very thing for over a year. In particular, I asked for a plan to figure out, to divide staff so that we have audits, people doing the audit, then people just doing the finances. They can work on day-to-day operations, and then also doing the modules that we just highlighted, that we just spoke about. So this is for me personally, I'm excited that we're at that stage. And I'm grateful that we could be able to have a conversation, because we could have done this a long time ago. So in saying that, whenever that discussion comes up in that proposal, can we get some answers as to why it couldn't be done before? Because we were told that the audit was going to be done September 11th. Now, granted, my comments are not, how do I say that, are not insensitive to what's going on with the finance department right now with some of the staff members. So please understand that. But prior to this situation, we had a significant amount of time where, the goal, well, first of all, the deadlines kept being pushed back when they were supposed to be done. But the last deadline was September 11th. And between September 11th and then the recent changes that has occurred, there's been ample time to give us the update on as to why. The last time you gave us the update, you said it was the schools and treasurer's office. I in particular asked for a work session, special meeting, so we can have everybody at the table. For whatever political reasons, that never occurred. So can we get an update as to if the same situations that you told us back then are going on right now? Can we have that update? Because I appreciate the plan. I'm ecstatic about it, because it should, it needs to be done. But at the same time, I would like to know why, besides the position of counselor at the time, why this couldn't be supported before, but then also what is the holdup still, why we still can't get 18 out the door. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I know what you're saying. So I've been pushing for a while now internally to get a plan done. We've had, as you know, a setback that occurred with where where we were creating, who was helping create the plan. We've had a setback there, but I've pivoted to another person to get that plan done in the interim because we couldn't wait. In my opinion, I couldn't wait an indefinite amount of time to get it done. We are still have issues revolving around schools, and they found some things that they need to correct in their numbers that they'll need to get ultimately to the treasurer so she can make some adjustments in her cash recon as a result of the items that they found. We still have the 3 issues that we had on our side where the treasurer needed to address. I know that the auditor still has those issues. So we're moving forward primarily right now is in schools are making progress, but they found some issues that required them to go back and look at their numbers again to make some additional adjustments. So we're waiting for those adjustments to come to the treasurer so she can make adjustments, and then we'll have the ability for the auditor to render a final opinion. And I'm thinking that if that gets done, we're in May when that audit is done.
You're saying by the time the school's finished, whatever numbers they got to crunch and the treasurer doing whatever she needs to do, that you'll be able to get it to the auditor in May, or that we'll have an answer from the auditor?
I think we should have I want an audit completed in May. I don't want the numbers. I want the numbers. Well, I wanted the numbers to them a long time ago, but the numbers to them should occur now this month. Of course, they're not there this week, but this month, numbers to the treasurer for her to be able to make changes, everything to the auditor, and then we'll have an audit in May.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I look forward to that conversation.
And Mayor Bennett, I can't see any hands. So
Councilor Pelham? Councilor Pelham, your mic is muted.
Yes. Has anyone else contacted us about the CFO work too?
So I sent y'all a copy of the 16 single audit that was completed, and the work on the 17 single audit has begun already. And then once that's completed, they can move directly. Well, the 18 audit has to be completed first before they can do the single audit.
Okay, and
with the 16 single audit, there were no findings, no issues whatsoever with the federal single audit.
oh, something else I needed. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see any other hands for discussion. Does this conclude your presentation this evening, Mr. Altman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Parton, seconded by Councilor Randolph. Roll call.
Councilor Gore,
Yes.
Councilor Denton.
Councilor Denton's been excused.
That's right. I apologize. I missed that from the beginning. Councilor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Why is this thing?
Yes.
Councilor Randolph,
Yes.
Councilor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton.
Yes.
Mayor Bennett, you have 6 yes, 1 absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Altman.
Welcome.
Good night.
Good night.